define sexual harassment for me?
Sexual harassment is unwanted sexual contact between two people.
Unwanted actions towards someone in a sexual manner.
Sexual harassment to me is unwanted touching.
Where do you think student perception of what sexual harassment is comes from?
I think students think that sexual harassment is maybe an unwanted comment or a gesture about something sexual. Where in terms, I think a lot of students don't understand that sexual harassment could be two kids telling a joke and a third person hearing it. They could be offended by that.
Mr. Hopper, how do you tell when an incident is sexual harassment or just acceptable adolescent behavior?
That depends a lot on the student's interpretation of what's happened. Because if you have two students walking down the hall holding hands with one another, or arm in arm, or something a little more intense, which happens from time to time, if one student doesn't feel that that's foisted upon them, that they're consenting to that kind of approach or behavior, then it's really not harassment. Harassment comes into play when something is not welcomed, not wanted. And if it's received in that manner, then yeah, something as simple as a touch on the shoulder can be considered harassment. Becomes sexual harassment when it becomes so inappropriate or inappropriate to the point where you really feel uncomfortable, or it's crossing a bound that you know should not be crossed, or you don't feel should be crossed. In that case, yeah, could very well be. And there are many, many ways that students can handle that in the building. I don't know that they're familiar with all of them, but there are many avenues they can do. The first and probably best is to express your feelings right on the spot. Stop that, that's not appropriate, I'm not going to put up with that. And whether that's female to male or male to female, doesn't matter.
Thank you.
Okay.
In about 30 here in high school students, how many do you think are actually concerned with sexual harassment?
I think it's probably pretty low. A lot of students don't really consider stuff unwanted or unwelcome, so I would say probably 5 out of 30.
What programs are currently installed for training teens or counseling teens in this area?
Well, right now for counseling, we have a program through the central office where they can help you report if you feel like you've been a victim of sexual harassment. As far as training goes, I don't think we have anything formal, but if you go through the peer mediation training, I believe you hear a little bit about sexual harassment there.
What do you think is the #1 solution for combating sexual harassment among teens in high schools?
Well, I think that it's really important for teens to realize that not everybody perceives what you say or what you do the same way that you do. So just be aware of what you say and who you say it to, so as not to offend anybody.
Well, training and counseling teens in this area handle it in a number of ways. I don't know so much about the geographic area, but I know about what's available to high school. 2 years ago, we installed a freshman health class, and a component of that health class, that's a requirement of all freshmen, is how to handle sexual harassment. So that's a starting point. We also have 2 counselors in the building who are trained and can do crisis counseling as needed, or can route you to more intense therapy if that's needed. Additionally, virtually every adult on staff or every adult in the community, if you feel you have a problem, or if somebody feels that they've been harassed, they can go to any adult. Principal, teacher, it doesn't matter. In this building, they can go to the custodian or a bus driver, and somebody will point you in the right direction. There is help available. And in terms of training counselors, I think the closest thing we would have is peer mediation, and peer mediation training in the high school. And those kids are trained to not only mediate issues between kids, but if they hear...
There's some programs I know of through the 34th District Court. We have a juvenile consent program. They have some programs also through the Downriver Guidance Clinic off of Allen Road, right in Southgate. They have programs also. And I do believe RESA through Wayne County, where a lot of our teachers go for some follow-up training and things to that nature, where they also have peer mediation, and I do believe they also have sexual harassment training courses also.
What do you feel is the #1 solution to combat sexual harassment for teenagers in high schools?
Well, I think that it's really important for teens to realize that not everybody perceives what you say or what you do the same way that you do. So just be aware of what you say and who you say it to, so as not to offend anybody.
So odd as this sounds, I believe the number one solution is self-esteem. I believe that kids need to think enough of themselves to believe that they don't have to be victims in order to be popular, that they don't have to submit to mistreatment in order to be accepted amongst their friends. If there was one tool I could put in a kid's toolbox that would help curb sexual harassment, it's the knowledge that they don't deserve it and they don't have to put up with it.
I think education, awareness, we got to put it out there more. What actually, we have to educate them what sexual harassment is, and also let them know what the consequences are. Because a lot of times, yeah, sexual harassment, yeah, big deal. Yeah, so I made a comment. It's not sexual harassment. You can't do that, you know. But if we educate them in what sexual harassment is, and let them know what the consequences are, that may reduce a lot of that. I just want to share a quick story with you. In a surrounding downriver community, there was a gentleman that worked for the city for about 20 years. He told a joke to somebody else in his department. However, a person heard that joke and was offended, reported that to their supervisor, and that person actually was fired after 20 years of service. So I think education is number one, and the awareness of sexual harassment. And I think that would be the number one key in educating the kids.